This is the Joe Concha Show. Joe Concha. Joe Concha. Joe Concha. 77 WABC.
All right, people. Let's get this puppy started, shall we? 9 p.m. The new show. I guess it's a Joe Concha Show? That's creative. Got to work on that one with the marketing people. One thing I don't have to work on is my portfolio. Did you hear that news report? The Dow Jones is at nearly 49,000. That's insane. When you consider where the Dow was on April 2nd, 2025. What was April 2nd, the day after April Fool's Day? President Trump did not want to start his tariffs war on April Fool's Day because, well, he didn't want people to think that it was a joke, so he put it April 2nd. And then the Paul Krugmans of the world, every single, basically, economic analyst, not every single, we'll call it 97% of them, said that we were headed towards a recession, that the GDP obviously would be in negative territory. That's what is the definition of a recession is. And then obviously we'd see the stock market tank and unemployment would go up and we'd see 2008 all over again. Well, what happened exactly since then? The Dow Jones is up nearly 20% since April 2nd, 2025. The NASDAQ is up even more. S&P, same thing. In other words, we're at record highs in the NASDAQ, the Dow Jones, S&P. As of now, January 5th of 2026. I guess the whole tariff thing worked out, huh? So here we are, and every economic, again, whether it be polls before a presidential election, whether it be economic forecasts from people that are obviously just Democratic activists posing as economists, you could go down the line. The bottom line is that gas prices now, you could get a gallon of gas in Colorado or Utah under $1.50 a gallon. Overall, well below $3 a gallon of gas, when under Joe Biden, it was well over $4. In California, it was nearly $7. But drill, baby, drill. That's the way it goes. We suddenly, oh boy, have our own energy here all along. Go figure. And that's why when you hear about Venezuela, and we're only going into Venezuela to take out Maduro, we literally took him out of Venezuela for the oil because we need the oil. We don't need the oil. We're doing just fine. This is all about the fact that Venezuela, in terms of their exports, 70% of their oil goes to China. China. Why is that, I wonder? And the rest goes to Russia, basically. In other words, this is not a free market. So if Trump wants to take the oil, it's not for the U.S. necessarily. It's for a free market, which drives down cost, which drives down the cost of gas and energy here. And that's how you lower inflation. That's how it's done. All of that said, Maduro was killing more people in this country in terms of drugs coming into this country than all the deaths in World War I, World War II, the Korean War, Vietnam War, Iraq War, Afghanistan War, all combined. Hundreds of thousands of Americans have died as a result of drugs coming across the U.S. southern border. So yes, it is an imminent threat to our national security. And finally, somebody did something about it. I've been hearing from Republican presidents, Democratic presidents. It does not matter. They've all said we have to take out Maduro. They also said, like the Chris Murphys of the world, like the Joe Bidens of the world, that Donald Trump will never do this because he adores dictators and he coddles them. Yeah, he's coddled, all right, Maduro. He's coddled in a prison cell right now, as is his wife. They're arraigned today. They'll go on trial, and they'll probably suffer the same fate as El Chapo. Remember him? He's serving a life sentence. Noriega served 20 years, then was extradited to, I believe, Panama, and then he died. So that went well for him as well. And this is the same thing as Noriega. Noriega was a narco-terrorist. Maduro is a narco-terrorist. There was a grand jury criminal indictment against him on several fronts for 6 years. Biden didn't do a thing. Trump finally does something, just like he did with the Iranians. Ask them if Trump bluffs anymore. If what he says isn't going to be an eventual reality for any government that decides to defy the United States and threaten the United States and our neighbors. And Marco Rubio said this perfectly as far as, I mean, actually, Rubio has been tremendous. I know you all want J.D. Vance in 2028, and I agree This is how it works, and JD has been tremendous. This is not a JD versus Marco thing. But I'm saying that Rubio, as president, in 2016, you couldn't see it. Unsteady, not confident, drank a lot of water, wasn't authentic, seemed rehearsed. Now, I could see it. 2028, no, you pass the torch on to your vice president. I get it, but 2036, and then eventually he serves till 2044, and then we have that Barron Trump ticket that we've always, thought would eventually happen. So that's the way it's going to go for the first half of the 21st century. But anyway, here's Marco Rubio and Margaret Brennan over on CBS. She is really a peach, isn't she? I mean, we saw her last year, 2 years ago now, I guess, 2024, during the vice presidential debate, J.D. Vance against Tim Walz, and we'll talk about Goofy Timmy in a second, but she was so biased against J.D., interrupting him constantly, never challenging Walz, and then finally turning J.D. Vance's mic off literally when he was fact-checking them on something they were wrong with. Anyway, she hosts the CBS morning show on Sunday mornings, and here she is questioning Marco Rubio in the most hysterical, unhinged, and quite frankly, stupidest way possible. And Rubio, who controls every interview, every conversation that he has these days, was not having it. This is cut number 8. Go.
I'm confused. Are they still wanted by the United States? Why didn't you arrest them if you are taking out the narco-terrorist regime?
You're confused? I don't know why that's confusing to you.
They're still in power.
It's very simple. You're not going to go in and wrap up. But you can't go. You're going to go in and suck up 5 people. They're already complaining about this one operation. Imagine the howls we would have from everybody else if we actually had to go and stay there 4 days to capture 4 other people. We got the top priority. The number one person on the list was the guy who claimed to be the president of the country that he was not. And he was arrested along with his wife, who was also indicted. And that was a pretty sophisticated and, frankly, complicated operation.
It was.
It is not easy to land helicopters in the middle of the largest military base in the country. The guy lived on a military base. Land within 3 minutes, kick down his door, grab him, put him in handcuffs, read him his rights, put him in a helicopter, and leave the country without losing any American or any American assets. That's not an easy mission. And you're asking me, why didn't we do that in 5 other places at the same time? I mean, that's absurd.
This ain't a movie, Margaret, all right? This ain't Die Hard. It's not the Nakatomi Plaza. We're not sending in Detective John McClane, Bruce Willis, in there to a compound where we had people under fire. We had a helicopter that was almost disabled, was able to get out of there. We had servicemen that were hurt. Right? This was as complicated, if not more, than the bin Laden operation in Islamabad, Pakistan, back in, I believe that was 2011. This was more complex. It was more dangerous. And she thinks that, hey, while we're there, why not grab that person we think is a terrorist or that person? The security forces in Maduro's compound were all basically Cuban security forces. And all that anti-aircraft stuff that was being fired up at U.S. helicopters and U.S. warplanes, all made by the Russians. Well, we can see why they're having trouble getting to Kyiv right now, because it basically did nothing. We had 0 casualties on our side. The Venezuelans / Cubans / whoever else, more than 80. 0. We got Maduro. And you have Margaret Brennan on CBS saying, why didn't we, while we were there, go after more guys? Just go to a couple of other places. Like you're wandering around Wisconsin. This isn't Wisconsin. It's Caracas. All right? They knew we were coming. And the fact that that's the question? You asked the Secretary of State of the United States in the most hostile way possible? Thank God. Rubio just kept his composure and said, you find this confusing? Again, this is not a movie. And this was one of the great military achievements we have seen in our lifetimes. And think about it this way. This could have been the Bay of Pigs, right? John F. Kennedy, who had a 70% approval rating while he was in office and did a lot of things right, whether we're talking about the Cuban Missile Crisis, whether we're talking about the fact that he lowered taxes during a recession that he inherited in 1961, the fact that he believed in a merit-based system, all these things. JFK was basically MAGA, right? But Bay of Pigs did not go well, obviously. And this could have been the same thing if Democrats wanted what they wanted before this, which was to get a full briefing on this, so they could go leak, whether you're Adam Schiff or Eric Swalwell or AOC or pick your Dem that loves to run to the New York Times and CNN and Jake Tapper and whoever else, the Atlantic, leak this thing out, and we would have had people die, and we could have had another Bay of Pigs. That's what would have happened, and they wouldn't have cared because it would have hurt Trump. That is the bottom line. U.S. service members being killed or injured does not matter. Can we embarrass Trump? Let's do it. And that's why Rubio and Pete Hegseth and the president and the vice president didn't go to Congress before that, because this is not something that you start telling other people about that you do not trust, because guaranteed it's going to get back to the enemy. And this could have been very, very bad. Anyway, it is amazing when we hear from liberals about this whole basically it was about an hour war, right? We keep hearing that no war with Argentina. The war's over, guys. You kind of missed it. It was as long as an episode of Moonlighting. All right. As long as like an NBA shot clock, like this thing was in, out, done, just like it was with Iran. Did we go to war with Iran? No, we did not. We just took out their nuclear facilities, didn't lose, again, one U.S. service member. Again, middle of the night, complex mission. We accomplished it, and we got out. That's how Donald Trump works, okay? Peace through strength, but we're not going to occupy anything. We're not going to have 1,000, 100,000 boots on the ground. We're not calling for democracy in Venezuela. We want these people to work with us. And that is America first. Having neighbors around us that are working with our interests. And trust me, Cuba, you're next. I'm not saying that we're going to, take out the leader of Cuba and extradite them, because at last check, I don't think there's any federal grand jury indictments against them. But as Venezuela goes, Cuba goes, and if Venezuela no longer can support Cuba in the way that it has, bye-bye Cuba, because already they are skating on very thin ice and it is breaking around them, no question. But let's hear from, Bill Maher for a moment. Bill Maher of HBO has become the voice of reason within the Democratic Party, along with John Fetterman.
Here's capitalist South Korea at night from space. Here's socialist North Korea. Yeah. In 1990, Venezuela was wealthier than Poland. But then Poland, finally free of Soviet-style economics, went all in on capitalism. And now their economy is as big as Japan. And people there have high wages, low inflation, cars, vacations, homes. Meanwhile, Venezuela traded capitalism for Hugo Chavez's socialism for the 21st century, which turned out to be like socialism in the last century or any century, a mess.
Any questions, people? Can you imagine that? I mean, Poland, under the Soviets, was basically as backwards as the Soviet Union, right? Russia right now has an economy that's basically the size of New York State. That's basically it. Their military sucks. How else can you put it? You can't get to Kyiv in 3 years? Is it 3 years? We're coming up on 4 years, aren't we? 4 years! And they can't get to the capital city of Ukraine despite the fact of having 100 times the resources. Can't get there because their equipment, to use the same word, sucks. Okay? And obviously the Venezuelans are finding out that the weapons that they gave them also suck. So the Russians suck, right? They're not the Soviet Union of yesteryear. But when they controlled the Eastern Bloc, well, Poland wasn't doing so well. The minute they went to capitalism, now, I didn't even know this until Bill Maher told me that, Poland has the same size economy as Japan? That's impressive. Wages are up, unemployment's down. They have other vacation homes. I mean, that's kind of the dream, right? And Venezuela used to be the crown jewel, basically, of South America. It can be that again if they use their own resources they have right underneath their feet, black gold, and sell it to the right people, not the Chinese and the Russians in exchange for security and everything else. And we needed Bill Maher, of all people, to teach us that. But hey, the guy has been on the air for 25 years and rates quite well because he's unpredictable and isn't afraid of his own party, unlike the absolute sycophants over at CNN and MSNBC or MS Now or whatever the hell they're calling that insane asylum. And that's the thing. At least the guy's authentic. You could disagree with him. He said some bad things about Trump, but then again, Trump had him to the White House And then Maher actually handed him a list of insults that he said over the years. And Trump didn't get mad. He signed it and smiled, right? And then Maher called him gracious and said it was a great dinner. And then the Larry Davids of the world, who is a genius when it comes to writing Seinfeld, Curb Your Enthusiasm, but then says that basically Maher had dinner with Hitler. A Jew, like Larry David, says something like that without any knowledge of what that actually means, and the New York Times actually printed that op-ed. No joke. Anyway, this is Joe Concha. This is the Joe Concha Show. I think that's what it's called. Kevin, is that what this show is called? I mean, I got to know exact title because it's quite boring. We got to work on that, like Concha's Corner. Can we call it that? I don't know. Kevin's not talking to me. Anyway, back with more in just a moment, and we're going to talk to, all right, see, I buried the lead. I'm sorry. We're going to talk to the 47th President of the United States. That's coming up next.
This is the Joe Concha Show, 77 WABC. It's the Joe Concha Show. Joe Concha. Joe Concha. Joe Concha. 77 WABC.
Welcome back, everybody. Well, you know, I feel so horrible for Nicolas Maduro because this guy, you know, he's going to jail probably for the rest of his life, as is his wife. He goes from one day being in a presidential palace, mocking Donald Trump, and now, look, you mess with the guy, you call his bluff, this is how it's going to go. And every other leader out there that decides to defy Trump, this is how it's going to go. All right, the guy does not just talk, doesn't just write letters, doesn't put together a committee to study X. Guy makes a decision. This is how it's going to go. And now, without further ado, let's bring in the 47th President of the United States. He is Donald Trump. President Trump, thanks for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Well, I have to say you're doing a great job, Joe. And,
thank you.
You know, I don't say that about most people named Joe. You know, we had a guy, his name was Crooked Joe.
Yeah, that's true.
For a long time. And Sleepy Joe for a long time. And he had a chance to go after Maduro, and he didn't do that. But we went after him, and our people found him. You know, we found him. He was sleeping in Hello Kitty pajamas. Nobody expected that. But he was in Hello Kitty, and he's a fat cat. I have to say that. And we got him out. And, you know, now we're running Venezuela. We're running it very well. We're winning like nobody's ever seen. But we got him out, and we're very happy to have him out. And now we're going to shave off that mustache. It's a very nasty mustache. We're going to shave it off. And then we're going to send them to Somalia. Nobody wants to go there. It's a dump of a country. We're going to send them there. But this is what we're looking at doing. We're having a very good time doing it.
Very good. And Mr. President, I have to say, and thanks for joining us again late here on a Monday. Then again, you don't sleep, of course, so I guess it's not late ever for the 47th president. But I understand that Chris Christie was involved as well as far as this extradition of Maduro. You go into this compound, a lot of moving parts, obviously Cuban security everywhere, the U.S. under fire, including one helicopter that was hit pretty badly. You're able to get it out of there. But Chris Christie somehow, my former governor, was involved. Please share with us a little bit more.
Well, he was involved, and, you know, we fed him. We fed him a lot of bacon, a lot of butter. You know, his blood type is Crisco. You know that?
No.
It's, you know, if you ever have to donate, if he ever needs blood, you can donate Crisco, and he'll do okay. But we call him Crisco Christie, and we hope he's never having a problem. But we attached him to a wrecking ball, and we blew a big, beautiful hole in the house, and we entered, and that's what he did. You know, he usually doesn't do very good things serving his country, but he was very big time serving the country and helping us with the raid. He came in like a wrecking ball, so bad that Miley Cyrus is jealous. She's probably writing a new song because she says she came in like a wrecking ball too.
Yeah.
But no, Chris Christie came in like a wrecking ball, and we knocked down the wall, and we entered, and we got him. We got Maduro.
And we're talking to President Trump, and I'm just curious, sir. Marco Rubio, I think, could be president one day. You know, maybe not 2028. I could see more of a 2036 scenario, but he may be president right now of Venezuela. Is that way you're seeing it?
Well, you look at Marco Rubio. He's doing a tremendous job. They call him El Marco Grande. They call him El Marco Grande. which means Big Marco. You know, who used to be
Little
Marco.
Yeah.
El Marco Pequeño, they called him. Now he's El Marco Grande. And it's Big Marco. He's a very big guy. He's a wonderful president of Venezuela. He's a wonderful national security advisor. He's a wonderful, you look at him, a wonderful USAID. He's doing a tremendous job, even though we got rid of it. And he's probably going to be the next governor of Minnesota because Tim Walz is out. So we're looking at Rubio. He has a lot of jobs. And he was almost the next pope. Remember that? They almost elected him as the next pope. They almost elected me as the pope, too. Pope Donald, the strongest and greatest, but we didn't want to do that. But Rubio's doing a fantastic job as the president of Venezuela, and he's making Venezuela great again.
Well, that's great to hear, Mr. President. And I have to say that overall, this has been one heck of a year for you as far as 2025 was concerned. Everything that was done as far as the big, beautiful bill being passed when no one thought that it could be, the bombing of Iran and their nuclear facilities. That was a very big deal as well. Obviously, men playing against women in sports, that thing is now completely, from a culture perspective, people don't want that like they did during the Biden years. And overall, you're making a big, beautiful ballroom as well in terms of the East Wing that no one used. Now you can finally host parties indoors as opposed to outdoors in tents. Overall, what do you think your biggest accomplishment was of 2025?
Well, we accomplished a lot. You know, we accomplished more than anybody else has probably ever accomplished. But we accomplished a lot. You know, we also had Alligator Alcatraz. You can add that in there. Beautiful place. And the Iran, we have to look at the Iran operation. We dropped Stacey Abrams on Iran.
Oh,
nobody ever thought that was possible. You know, they call it a bunker buster.
Yeah.
And we dropped Katie Porter on some of the drug boats, and you see where we're going with it. And we used Chris Christie in the raid on Maduro.
Yeah.
But the big beautiful bill, you mentioned the big beautiful bill. It's named after me. You know that? The big, beautiful bill.
I didn't know that.
But I think my greatest accomplishment is probably Iran. You look at Iran. We took out their nuclear facilities, obliterated, annihilated. Operation Midnight Hammer. If Kamala Harris was your president, that would have been Operation Hammered by Noon.
Yeah.
But this was Operation Midnight Hammer. So between that and the big, beautiful tax cuts, we're doing tax cuts. I would say we accomplished a lot, and we're going to accomplish a lot more. We already started hot with Maduro. We started very hot. We're a hot country. And if there's other people who are acting up, we could do that to them too, so they better watch themselves. You know, we use a different term, but we say, you better watch yourself. If you're in Colombia, for example, you better watch yourself.
That's a great term. It almost beats Make America Great Again. And folks, I love to go on with this. I would, but we are talking to Sean Farash, who does the best Trump imitation ever. The president has retweeted out the imitation. It is so good, as has many in the First Family. Sean, thanks for joining us as we reintroduce you. Happy New Year. Did you spend it down in Tennessee, or did you come back to your home state of New York?
No, we spent it in Tennessee. Thanks for having me. We spent our New Year here in Tennessee. We don't really, you know, I love my family up there, but we don't really want to come up to New York.
I don't blame you.
Just, you know, especially with, the warmth of collectivism that's up there now. I just can't wait. You know what? I am so happy that Mamdani used that phrase, you know, because I posted a video not too long ago from 2019 of Maduro's regime running over protesters in the street, and people commented that this is the warmth of collectivism. Mamdani, you know, acting like this is going to be some sort of beautiful experiment and he's going to prove everybody wrong. It's going to go the exact same way we've seen it go in so many other places. And so, you know, that little clip from his inaugural address, his inaugural speech, about how warm it's going to be and how frigid and rugged individualism is, and that's going to come back to hurt him. I love it. And anytime we see something that, you know, resembles what was going on in Venezuela, or the prices, you know, affordability and all that, you know, I think the subway fare just went up to $3. If those continue to increase in New York, you just come back and say, hey, how do you like that warmth of collectivism? How's that treating you? So, but we don't have any desire to come to New York at this point. We love Tennessee, and it takes a lot to get me out of the state. I'll say that.
Just so people know, Sean Farash was quite prophetic. He lived on Long Island and then saw where basically things were going in this area in general, whether it be under Hochul, whether it be under de Blasio, whether it be, Adams to a certain extent. I think Adams tried, but obviously Mamdani is your mayor now. But when did you move out of Long Island, and what was the final straw for you to go to the Nashville area?
Well, we were instrumental in as I was running a grassroots organization that I actually started in the summer of 2020. And we were pretty involved with the Zeldin campaign at a grassroots level, mobilizing a lot of people and organizing rallies and things like that. And at that point, my now wife, then girlfriend, she actually moved up to New York for 6 months because I wanted to see it through with that campaign under the assumption or the idea that if Lee Zeldin had lost, there was no way I was staying. And so he came close, 6 points, close in a state like New York. But obviously, just couldn't get across the finish line. There was a lot of heavy lifting to do, and he did a great job. And nobody could have done a better job than Lee in that campaign. But when that happened, we both looked at each other and said, "We got to go. We can't stay here." And we were thinking Florida, but then my wife said, "What do you think about Tennessee?" I said, "I think it has no state income tax, and it's a great idea. Let's do it." And so we went, and what a great decision! We're now proud homeowners in Tennessee, and it was definitely the right place to plant our roots. We're so happy to be here, out of a lot of the madness. And look, there's battles we have to fight here in Tennessee locally, and at the state level. Of course, we always want our elected leaders, whether they're Republicans or Democrats, to do more for the people, but a lot more receptive to feedback here. Our state legislature is doing a great job, and it's nice to be involved in a state that actually cares about its constituents.
And we're talking to Sean Farash. Sean, that's the thing. I'm not going to knock Florida because I'm going on vacation there twice. Like February, I'm doing a speech, so it's kind of a vacation that I'm kind of wrapping around work. But then April, we're going back as well for a vacation. But I'm not big on Florida in the sense where it's a lot of highways and then a lot of strip malls. And it doesn't have the character of a Tennessee where you kind of have seasons, right? I think it may snow there a little bit. You kind of appreciate, in other words, when it gets warm and when it gets cold. Florida, if you go below a certain point south, it's always warm. And I don't know. I almost need seasons to a certain extent. And at the same time, it just feels like Florida is very something that lacks character. Does that make sense when you guys were looking down there?
Yeah, Florida's great. She's from North Florida, so they get like, I don't know, maybe a month of winter.
Yeah, right.
Tallahassee is where she used to live. And it was cold. I mean, I went down there a few times this year, and it was cold. Got into like the 40s at night, the 30s at night, but like in the middle of the day, it was like 70 degrees, which is nice. You get the best of both worlds. Good sleeping weather, good outside weather. I do like the seasons. I do like the 4 seasons. And one thing that's cool about Tennessee is, we get spring when spring's supposed to come. When I lived on Long Island, I remember there were times like in May, and it was still like 40 degrees. And I was like, I want a refund. Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
We get the 4 seasons here. It's nice. Florida definitely has character. It's a great state. There's so many different. North Florida is like living in the South. South Florida is like living in New York to an extent. Not the politics, but it's a lot of transplant. Love this state, and I would encourage anybody who votes like I vote to move here. If not, you're not allowed in. We're going to vet you at the border.
That's a good idea. We're talking to Sean Farash. 2026 is here, Sean. And yes, you're a great Trump imitator. Obviously, you're involved in the Zeldin campaign. You follow politics very closely. How do you see 2026 shaking out based on the fact that I am seeing Trump in terms of polls, and these polls are obviously heavily weighted towards Democrats. So when I see like Morning Consult, I believe, has him now at 47% approval. I know that means 52. I mean, that's just kind of the way it works with Trump. Add 5 to any poll. But everything is going in a positive direction because obviously the economy is going in a great direction. I mentioned at the top of the show, the Dow Jones is nearly at 49,000. The GDP is growing at 4.3% in the last quarter. It could even accelerate even more. Core inflation is only at 2.5%. It was above 9 under Joe Biden. And obviously the border is closed. Iran doesn't have nuclear capabilities anymore. Venezuela is not controlled by a dictator who's sending drugs into this country. It seems like everything's going in a positive direction. All that said, do you think that Republicans can hold off Democrats from taking back the House, therefore giving us House Speaker Jeffries and therefore having perpetual impeachment for the next 2 years of the final 2 years, I should say, of Trump's presidency?
Well, I think Republicans can do it. I just don't know if they want to enough, right? Just based off of what I'm looking at. Like I'm unfortunately, when it comes to the NFL, a New York Jets fan, so I know what bad performances look like. And, sometimes it's like the players look like they're trying, they're just not good enough. And sometimes it looks like they don't care. I get the sense that there are some Republicans who don't care, but I do think here's something important. You bring up polling. There was a poll that was done by Harvard Harris, and an overwhelming majority of both Republicans and independents both said they'd rather see the Democrats take a wait-and-see approach on Donald Trump's policies instead of just blindly opposing him because, Trump derangement syndrome, orange man did. And that to me means that there are people out there, and the most important demographic are those independents, that are like, hey, stop obstructing and let's just see what happens, because what we've been doing hasn't been working, and Donald Trump wants to do it a little differently. And I think that's going to be a big player and a big factor going into 26 is the fact that the Democrats are absolutely obstructing. They're looking at, we're 25 days away from another potential government shutdown, and they'll do it because they benefited from that in terms of, approval. In their party, they had a plus 22 approval rating during the shutdown. After the shutdown ended, they didn't get anything for it. Their approval rating internally within the party went down to -6. They went 6 points underwater. So they're going to do it again. And what I mean by do Republicans want to win, do we have enough in the Senate who are going to say, all right, Democrats don't want to govern. They want to obstruct. We're going to do this on our own. Are they going to get rid of the filibuster and try and push some of these agenda items through? Because if the Democrats get power back in the executive and the legislative branches, they're going to do it anyway. Might as well do it on our terms. And I never thought I'd be saying that, but I also never thought we'd be dealing with a Democrat Party that is as, just obstructionist as they are. So 26 can go the way of Republicans. Redistricting helps. But we do need some results. We need to motivate the base, and people have to feel better about this economy. And I think they will. Tax season is a couple months away. Energy prices continue to come down. Inflation continues to come down. Wages are coming up. People will feel it. And I hope that it bears us good results in 2026. It is possible. We just have to want it bad enough. And that goes for the voters, too. We got to do our job. Campaigning, knocking doors, making phone calls, participating in all levels of the process. Primaries, Republican Party meetings once a month, local elections, sheriff elections, county, and state level elections. All of that matters. And if we all participate, we all engage, and we take that too big to rig mentality we took from 24 into 26, we'll win.
And we're talking to Sean Farash, and boy, you're so right about that. At Sean, SHAWN _ Farash, FARASH. You want to follow him on Twitter. You have more Twitter followers than me. Oh, you suck. Wow. You're above 400,000 now. You just lap me. I guess when the president retweets you, that's a good thing.
You just got to learn how to do a funny voice, Joe. Just learn a voice and make some videos, and you'll be good, right? That's what you're doing.
I got to work on that, but I'll leave it here. You're so right about the filibuster, because I was anti-blow up the filibuster forever, because I just think it's such a check and balance on any party that gets into power. You don't want them to move everything so fast and so extreme just because they have a majority. Like, there's a reason why the founding fathers said you need 60 votes in the Senate, because that is a check that says that the majority party just can't push through whatever they want. You have to compromise with the other side and bring at least some buy-in, at least in this case, if it's 50-50, 10 more senators in from the other side. And that's how, democracy works. Now, you're right. Democrats, if they get back power, the things they will do include expanding the Supreme Court to look like an NFL roster, basically, until they have enough liberals on there. That's how that's going to work. They're going to expand the U.S. to 52 states, Puerto Rico and Washington, D.C., which means 4 senators that are Democrats in perpetuity, no question about it. And they'll federalize voting, which means states don't decide like Georgia, where they have common sense voting laws. They'll make sure that voting is as favored to Democrats as possible, and it's one-party rule forever. So, yeah, that's what's at stake here, and you're right. Republicans have to fight the way Democrats are fighting, and it seems like they're a little bit too polite, or they just don't focus on the fact that they're always playing defense, and they try to be friends with the media and try to, appeal to some sort of middle that kind of doesn't exist. I don't know. I think in the end, if the economy is going well, yes, that favors them, but they have to make the sale, and that's what 2026 is all about. Sean Farash, thanks so much for joining us on late notice, I should say. We really appreciate it, and we'll have you back on the show soon, my friend.
Thank you, Joe. Appreciate it. Happy New Year, and congrats. I hear you got this nice gig now, so that's awesome. Happy for you.
Yeah, 5 days a week, 9 to 10 p.m. Eastern time. And yeah, you will be a number one guest on here, no question about it. Sean Farash, everybody. And I am Joe Concha. This is the Joe Concha Show. Back with more in just a moment.
This is the Joe Concha Show, 77 WABC. It's the Joe Concha Show. Joe Concha. Joe Concha. Joe Concha. 77 WABC.
All right, people. We're in the home stretch of our number one 2-hour special tonight. Rita is on vacation. You know she's usually on from 10 to 11 p.m. Eastern time. But the girl worked all during Christmas. New Year's Eve does not matter. It's about time that she kicks back and has a nice mojito, earning 20% on a beach somewhere. I'm sure that's what Rita is doing. I hope that's what Rita is doing. I didn't go anywhere. I'm an idiot. I did a kind of a staycation. I live in Jersey. What the hell was I thinking? We had people over one night. I feel horrible. This was some friends were in from out of town. And that's the thing. Like, I'm still friends with a lot of my high school people. Like my high school group, my friends. I had several cliques, actually. I played football, played baseball. So I had the football friends. I had the baseball friends. I had the academic friends, for lack of a better term. Just an assortment, right? So the assortment went to college and never came back. It was really odd. Like, a lot of my friends were smart, actually. They're in the 90s. They knew, don't come back to this wretched state the way it's run anyway. So I had friends in from Florida that went to some schools down there, University of Florida, some friends from Ohio State, West Virginia, you name it. They were back in town. So then I always host. It's a thing. I just like doing it. I don't like going to bars necessarily. It's usually loud, kind of expensive. So just bring people into your home. We don't do this enough, right? People just, for example, like when you have a birthday, people will text you, happy birthday. I'm like, oh, great, thanks. Maybe pick up a phone, maybe call. We could catch up for a little bit. I don't know. Just saying. It's a bit old school, I know, but at the same time, I think social media has made us less social. No question about it. So we had some people over, and I feel bad because it was so cold here that we got some snow, then it melted during the day, and by the time people came here, then it was night, so then the cold came back in again, and whatever melted and turned to liquid refreezed. And my driveway is black, like most other driveways. It's, we had it redone recently, and it's tarred down. So it runs downhill, the driveway, and all the water kind of ran downhill and settled at the bottom of the driveway. And one of my poor friends was walking up, like with a cake for the kids, and just did, a Peter Pan boom, like right up and down, and it wasn't good. So then we get a text from one of our neighbors saying, and I think I have the text here, as a matter of fact, I'd love to read it verbatim because it's, I don't want to say it was funny. It's funny now because he actually wasn't hurt. I mean, I'm sure it hurts when you land on concrete hard on a cold night, but here we go. Let's see. Here we go. Hey guys, just wanted to let you know that the guy that just left your house fell in the driveway. He says he's okay, but you might want to check on him later. Oh, man. I mean, that's horrible. He said, then she says, the neighbor, he was driving a nice small white SUV and is a bit older than us. Actually, he's younger than me by a couple of months. He had a nice lightweight puffer jacket. Oh, man. So she thought it was like a delivery person or something, and it turned out that it wasn't. It was a friend of ours, and because I didn't salt the bottom of the driveway, I guess, then that's what happened. The bottom line is, the reason why I bring this up is that Rita probably is somewhere warm, and I decided to stay around here. Then we went to Crystal Springs, which is a nice little resort up in like North New Jersey, and I went skiing with my kid, and that's all well and good. But why wouldn't I go to South Florida? I got to think about Florida because back in college on spring break, I drove my Jeep down to Panama City, Florida, thinking it will be 85 and sunny because it's March and it's Florida. Well, it snowed. It snowed in Florida when I went there on spring break. What are the odds on this? Look up Storm of the Century sometime and then put in Panama City, Florida Panhandle. You'll see they got like 4 inches of snow, and the rest of the week it was cold. It was like 45 degrees. I literally had to wear a Texaco sweatshirt because I didn't pack anything for cold weather. Why would I? It's Florida. It's spring break. I've watched this in movies 1,000 times. It's girls in bikinis up on balconies. I'm supposed to be, I guess, in a Speedo. Well, not a Speedo. I'm not Italian. But, a nice little bathing suit, topless, with my 6-pack. I think I was so much in shape there, I had a 7-pack. Like, that's how much I was in shape in college. So that was the way it was supposed to go. I didn't have one long-sleeve shirt. So being poor, I bought a Texaco sweatshirt. So then, we met some girls, and I was known as the Texaco guy. One girl literally called me Tex. Her name was Kitty. I don't know. That was kind of weird. Tex, Kitty. Anyway, I'm happily married now, and I probably shouldn't get into this. The point is that Florida is the way to go, but you have to go south in Florida, or else you could run into a problem if you're in the northern part of the state. No question about it. That's called the tangent in radio, everybody. And I just went off on it. I hope you enjoyed it. Tim Walz, goofy Tim Walz, the goofy 80s sitcom dad, Mr. Jazz Hands himself, is not running for a third term for governor of Minnesota. And, it's funny because if you think back to, I'll do the math on this, 16 months ago, all right, it's September of 2024, and Kamala Harris has one big decision she has to make, just one. Who's going to be my vice president? Who's going to be number 2 on my ticket? And she could have picked Josh Shapiro, who was at 64% approval in Pennsylvania. Could have done that. That's a state you kind of have to win. No, you must win. So you could have taken the popular governor from the Keystone State, right? Who's a good public speaker, who is seen as a moderate. All right, that would have made sense. Whoops. No. She passes on him, passes on Captain Mark Kelly, former astronaut, right? Former Iraq War veteran. Okay. Bald, sure. Fine. Not the worst thing, I guess. Also portrays himself as a moderate. Wouldn't hurt your ticket, I guess. No. Instead, she goes, Pete Buttigieg. That's how you say his name. It's Edge. Pete Buttigieg. Edge. That's how you say it. Trump said that during a rally once. I found it funny. Anyway, could have picked him as well, but did not. Oh, boy. That's not good. Why didn't she pick him? Well, too darn gay. She said in her book later that America just was not ready for a female president and a gay vice president. All right. And wasn't ready also for a Jewish vice president. So she checked off all the boxes in reverse in terms of the people she couldn't pick. So instead, she picked goofy Tim Walz as her running mate, and we saw how that turned out. The guy only lied about his military service, said he carried weapons of war in war, when the fact is that he was in the National Guard. They were deployed to Italy. Again, this is not World War II. All right. And the minute they were called up to Iraq, he said, I'm out of here. Going to go run for Congress instead. You guys have fun. All right. So he ditched his own National Guard unit. Also said that he was in Hong Kong during the Tiananmen Square massacre, except he was in a cornfield in Nebraska. And this was actually discovered during the 2024 campaign. Had no good explanation for it. Said he got his dates mixed up. Yeah, I always get confused when I may be in China when, in fact, I was going to a University of Nebraska football game. Like, the similarities are completely and totally there. Lied about that. Said, like, he was basically the next Bill Parcells, all right, as far as coaching, when in fact he was just a volunteer assistant coach. And Democrats are trying to portray him as like this guy who took this team that was last place and brought them the glory as an assistant volunteer coach. Okay. We could go on, including the fact that in 2020, when Minneapolis was burning down, he waited days upon days to put the National Guard, the unit that he was a member of, into the city. They basically burned everything down, including an entire police station, before he did it, and then apologized for doing it. No joke, totally true. Anyway, let's just play one clip from Tim Walz. Actually, I'm going to break, and when we come back, it's the best of Tim Walz. I have so much sound here. You got to stick around, guys. I know you want to go to bed. Maybe you're like, it's a weekday. We're going here until 11 o'clock. Stick around. This is the Joe Concha Show on WABC.
This is the Joe Concha Show, 77 WABC. It's the Joe Concha Show. Joe Concha. Joe Concha. Joe Concha. 77 WABC.
All right, you asked for it, you'll get it. Tim Walz, since the election, has shown to be a complete ass clown. I don't know, can I say that? I guess I can. Yeah, because this guy, he tries to burn Trump or burn conservatives or burn Elon Musk. And the fact is that he's just that dumb. I still can't believe that he could have been vice president of the United States, which means if Kamala just had a little bit too much one night and something bad happened, then Tim Walz, we could have President Tim Walz, despite the fact he said stuff like this, like cut one, go.
Saying on my phone, I don't know, some of you know this on the iPhone, they've got that little stock app. I added Tesla to it to give me a little boost during the day.
Yeah.
225 and dropping. So.
Woo! Everybody cheers, except, oh no, Minnesota had a huge investment, the state did, literally in Tesla stock. So when Tesla stocks drop, then therefore Minnesota loses out. And then when he was asked about this later, like, why are you rooting for Tesla stock to drop when your state literally has a huge stake in it from an investment perspective? He said, I was just joking around. No one can take a joke. He didn't know. He didn't know. It's really that simple, or just didn't really think it through. Then there was a time that Governor Walz actually woke up and was hoping to see that President Trump was dead. You know, the guy who was nearly assassinated twice in 2025. This is what he had to say. Cut 4, go.
You get up in the morning and you doom scroll through things, and although I will say this, the last few days you woke up thinking there might be news. Just saying. There will be news sometime, just so you know. There will be news.
In other words, during that particular rally that he had during Labor Day of this year, there were reports, of course, by our wonderful media, which always gets things accurate and never trusts, anonymous sources, that Trump was dying or had died, which this was based on the fact that Trump wasn't in front of a microphone for like a couple of hours. So therefore, there must be something wrong with him, even though Biden could be missing for literally a week on end. His defense secretary was missing for 2 weeks, went in for an operation or something, and then it didn't go well. He didn't bother to tell anybody that he was going in for an operation. That's fine. Biden missing for days on end or not speaking to the press for weeks on end, that's fine. Trump goes a couple of hours without speaking to the press. He must be dead. And that's what Walz went with there. And it's just sick that he was actually rooting for it, like making a joke of it. What a scumbag. Anyway, now Walz is not going to run for a third term for governor. The reason why is he probably has to go lawyer up now because he's probably going to be indicted, most likely. We're talking billions upon billions of dollars of fraud that happened under his watch, and he's going to pretend like he didn't know. Well, instead, he's now blaming Trump for him having to drop out of the race because Trump's doing mean things and he has to concentrate on governing the state or something. This is cut number 7. Go.
It was an extraordinarily difficult year for our state, and it ended on a particularly sour note. Yeah. For the last several years, an organized group of criminals have sought to take advantage of this state's generosity. And even as we make progress in the fight against the fraudsters, we now see an organized group of political actors seeking to take advantage of a crisis. I don't want to mince words here. Donald Trump and his allies in Washington and in St. Paul and online want to make our state a colder, meaner place.
Donald Trump wants to make Minnesota a colder, meaner place. The Somalians you let in, my friend, to the tune of thousands upon thousands, who opened up food centers during COVID for children that are hungry and then never actually, gave out the food or even opened a center or autism centers during COVID. All the money that was supposed to go towards children with either hunger or real problems, and Somalians who came into this country that Tim Walz embraced with open arms and gave driver's license to and gave health care to and gave basically everything to. How did they give back? They stole all this money from the state. And you're going to tell me that no Minnesota leaders knew about it when these Somalian groups donated hundreds of thousands of dollars to only Democrat candidates. You don't think this was a quid pro quo? This is the very definition of it. I mean, come on, man, to quote one president at one time. And by the way, you still can buy my book. It's called Come On, Man. The Truth About, I got the poster here somewhere. The Truth About Biden's terrible, horrible, no good, very bad presidency. That's the problem. It's such a long title, and I wrote it 4 years ago, that it's kind of hard to remember. It's not like, hey, I wrote Moby Dick. That's easy. War and Peace. That's easy. Come On, Man. The Truth About Biden's terrible, horrible, no good, very bad presidency. When you get to be my age, Memory is the first thing to go. Anyway, this is hour number 1. It usually will be 1 hour, but tonight it's special because we're launching the Joe Concha Show. We're going to do 1 more hour till 11 o'clock Eastern Time. Please do stick around. We got Jonathan Gillen coming up to talk about the raid on Maduro's complex and many other topics. Please do stick around.